This episode of Couch Potatoes Unite! Is sponsored by Blue Bridge Games. For the games and gifts you won't find anywhere else, head to Grand Rapids, Michigan's friendliest local game store, Blue Bridge Games. Blue Bridge Games carries an extensive line of board games, card games, role-playing tabletop games, Magic the Gathering, and more. Stop into their storefront on East Fulton or shop with them online at bluebridgegames.com.
You say you want to watch a drama. You say you want to watch a comedy. Well, you can watch it with your mama. Or you can watch it with your daddy.
You'll even sit and watch it with your middle schooler. So you can come and talk around a water cooler. We're watching all day and all night.
Couch Potatoes Unite.
Whoa, whoa.
Couch Potatoes Unite.
Whoa, whoa. Couch Potatoes Unite.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the podcast entitled Couch Potatoes Unite! Which is based on a blog of the same name because we are the creators of our own story worlds and can give ourselves whatever name we want, like apparently Chuck is able to do, until he can't. Foreshadowing! Intrigue! We'll be talking about it. My name is Kylie and I love TV. If you feel the same, keep listening and or checking out our website, couchpotatoesunite.wordpress.com, as you're bound to find some common ground or something you like. For at Couch Potatoes Unite, we're all about the wonders and the unique long-form storytelling of the small screen. CPU! Hopes you've been following releases of brand new episodes of the podcast on Wednesdays, as well as new blog entries on some Tuesdays, and as always, we have several more new episodes on the way. Because the panels and I live lives behind our podcast, the episodes are published once per week. Subscribe to our website or podcast via iTunes, Apple Podcast, Stitcher Radio, Google Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, CastBox, Amazon Music, basically wherever you get your podcasts to stay on top of brand new episodes. Episodes already published discuss a variety of shows around the water cooler, including, but not limited to, Stranger Things, iZombie, The Good Place, Game of Thrones, Grace and Frankie, Mr. Robot, Altered Carbon, The Orville, Outlander, Westworld, Fuller House, Schitt's Creek, Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., The Crown, Better Call Saul, Doctor Who, Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, and Big Little Lies. Plus new episodes are in the works, including revisits for The 100, This Is Us, Charmed, Riverdale, The Good Doctor Catching Up series panel will get caught up on Season 4, the Call the Midwife Catching Up panel will get caught up on Seasons 3 and 4, the American Horror Story franchise series panel, new name, will talk about Season 1 of American Horror Stories, the DCTU series panel will reflect upon Season 4 of Black Lightning, and the Star Trek 50 Plus series will discuss Season 1 of Deep Space Nine. We'll be launching new panels covering the Animaniacs, Killing Eve, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, American Gods, Grey's Anatomy, Cobra Kai, Peaky Blinders, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Discovery of Witches, Titans, and Umbrella Academy. And because we look back at shows now past, we'll travel through time and experience all sorts of identities with Quantum Leap. We'll cry bazinga for Big Bang Theory. We'll navigate the witty political satire of Parks and Recreation. We'll become psychos for Psych. We'll go where everybody knows your name with Cheers. We hope you'll be listening when we talk about Frasier. We'll know that's what she said when we talk about The Office from the UK and the USA. We'll show off our Kung Fu for Chuck, and we'll debate whether saving the cheerleader actually saved the world by looking at all iterations of heroes. By the way, did you know that CPU also from time to time goes live? We've been live from bunkers and comedy shows, Comic-Cons and game stores, plus we're planning more live appearances and other cool stuff, including in whatever we're calling these times. So make sure you like and follow us at our Facebook page, our Twitter at CPU Podcast, our Instagram at Couch Potatoes Unite, or subscribe to our website, YouTube channel, Apple iTunes channel, Stitcher Radio channel, or find us on Google Podcast, Spotify, CastBox, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Music. In the meantime, if you don't hear a show in this podcast format, fellow panelists and I still write reviews, and we always seek new panelists. So if you have any interest in joining the discussion, say hello by finding us at any of the outlets I've mentioned. At the very least, stop by and leave us a thumbs up, comment, or review. We like feedback, just don't obliterate us and our world simply because you're bored. Who do you think you are? Chuck? This is a theme. Today, we're around the water cooler and discussing the latter and final half of Season 15 of Supernatural. The series finale aired on November 19th, 2020 after several episodes were delayed due to shutdowns caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. The final season concluded after a total of 20 episodes. Tonight's podcast episode represents the first of CPU's two-part goodbye series in which we salute the end of our watch of the longest-running sci-fi, fantasy, and horror show, and one of the most important cult shows in TV and pop culture history. as we're about to discuss. To remind the listener, Supernatural is an American dark fantasy television series created by Eric Kripke. It was first broadcast on September 13, 2005 on the WB and subsequently became part of successor The CW's lineup. Starring Jared Padalecki as Sam Winchester and Jensen Ackles as Dean Winchester, the series follows the two brothers as they hunt demons, ghosts, monsters, and other supernatural beings. The series is produced by Warner Brothers Television in association with Wonderland Sound and Vision. Our Supernatural panel, that is Nick, Kels, Jeremy, Jen K, and Jen S, triumphantly returned to the water cooler after a longer than normal hiatus, #thanks COVID, ready to discuss the second and final half of the officially final 15th season. Can you even believe it? And goings-on of this epic long-running series about the two monster-hunting Winchester brothers, ready as we always are to hit the road in our trusty 67 Chevy Impala named Baby. And to get started, it should as always be noted that all of our panelists have viewed the entire series, yes, the entire series, of Supernatural, so weird to say it, and may discuss sensitive plot points. So if you haven't watched any of Supernatural and plan to catch up at some point, first get on that, listen at your own risk, and then there are going to be major spoilers. Welcome back, panel. So nice to see you after all this time.
Hello.
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 Are you ready to discuss the latter half of the final season? Yes, the actual final season of Supernatural.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, good. We have a lot of surety and then some maybe not surety. So good. Well, that bodes well. What we're going to do, though, of course, is start with the standard CPU character question, which changes with each show we do. Although, let's face it, Supernatural has basically, 4 characters. And I changed these things very little with this show. And I basically changed it very little this time. But what I'd like you to do is rate your interest in the latter half of season 15. So how do you think they closed off the series in these latter 11 episodes? And you get to do it along this character question, which basically hasn't changed, but will remind the listener and you, and it goes like this. Did you watch it because hunting is your life? Because you love the show Hunting and or the show about hunting? For you, it's keep grinding until the end or until you die. Also, you're really into Baby, the Impala, most fried meats, the awesome use of classic rock, and pie. Or you watch it because you feel as though you have no other choice, as you are basically declaring war on Chuck, aka God, and you need to know how it all ends, like Dean Winchester. Did you watch it because you were reluctantly convinced to watch the show about the lives of two brothers demon hunting, but now you can't imagine your life without the show, or demon hunting? Or you watch it because you feel as though you have no other choice. You need to know if the brothers Winchester will survive or die together as they always hoped, or if they will be at the mercy of Chuck, aka God, and have to kill each other to end the story you've watched so long, like Sam Winchester. Did you watch it because your best friend watched it, or watches it, and or because your best friend is deeply committed to hunting, and even though you shouldn't really be involved with their actions or decisions, you trust your best friend's judgment and moral center? You're basically along for the supernatural ride, as bumpy as it is sometimes, and with your best friend, though you secretly enjoy it, like Castiel. Or you didn't like it anymore, you stopped liking it, or you stopped watching it because, spoiler, you died and were lost to the empty. Alternatively, you decided that after having stopped watching for a while, because you were fed up and didn't know if you could make it to the end, you decided to allow yourself to check back in just to see how the whole thing would end, like Jack. Who would like to start?
Nick is my name.
Hi, Nick is your name.
And I picked Crowley.
You can't, he is so long gone.
Yeah, but I missed him in the back half of these episodes. But for real, I think I'm still Sam. I think this last part of the season overall did a pretty good job, a pretty difficult job, too, of ending a 15-year run. And I think they gave us a lot of what most fans would have wanted to see, and they did it in a way that wasn't necessarily easy to see coming. I don't know, there's definitely last season tropes, like revisiting as many characters as we can, but I think they did it in a good way from a storytelling perspective.
All right.
End.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that clear and definitive marker. Welcome back, Nick.
Thanks.
This
Okay.
is Jen S.
Hi,
And
Jen
I am
S.
still Dean.
You're still Dean. Why are you still Dean?
Because of all of the things you mentioned.
That in his description, you mean?
Like pie, yeah.
And pie, okay?
Yeah.
Any particular pie? Is there a...
Oh, all pie.
Okay.
See? Dean.
All right, fair enough. Welcome back, Jen S. I'm sure you'll say more as we go.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because it's a podcast. Who's next?
Hi, I'm Kels.
Hi, Kels.
Hi. And I think I was Sam last time, but I think I enjoyed the second half of this season a little bit more. So I think I'm Dean, especially because I really didn't like Chuck the more we got into things, and I think I'm going to embrace declaring war on Chuck, and I did really need to know how it all ended, because I have been watching this show since it initially aired. I'm not one of the people who jumped in later and started watching, so I really needed to know how it ended. I'm going to go with Dean.
Fair enough. Welcome back, Kels.
Thank you.
I'm Jen K.
Hi, Jen K.
Hi. I think this time around I'm Castiel. Definitely along for the ride. I like it no matter how bumpy it is. And yeah, I think it's just been a fun ride.
Last time you were a mix of Dean and Castiel. So what makes you bump Dean Winchester?
I think we'll talk about it probably as other episodes come up, but other than the last couple of episodes, I think the rest of season 15B wasn't as strong as it could have been.
Okay. Welcome back, Jen K.
Oh, I guess that probably leaves me, huh?
Well, that's kind of how it works.
All right, I'm Jeremy,
Hi,
and
Jeremy.
I would say I will be right there with Jen. I'm Castiel. While I love the show, I'm just along for the ride, and just like Castiel, I think I'm ready for it to end.
You were Castiel last time, so it's a little less shocking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any particular expounding you want to offer right now before we get into the discussion?
No, I'll hold that commentary for later.
I see. Welcome back, Jeremy. Oh, so many people want to be mysterious. Of course, my name is Kylie. I both moderate and participate on this panel, as is often the case, although for Supernatural, that was just a gimme. Last time I was Dean. This time I am Dean. I will always be Dean. I'm just going to hint that Supernatural has officially become one of my all-time favorite shows. It ended better than Game of Thrones. I'm just going to say that. Okay.
I haven't seen the ending of Game of Thrones, so no spoilers.
Hashtag controversy.
I've only
not
seen the
like
first
a-
3 seasons.
Is that a standard that we want to set though? Because not that I watched Game of Thrones, but I heard that it wasn't the greatest ending.
So here's the thing. I'll explain that a little bit, but not too much, because we already did our Game of Thrones podcast.
Sure.
I think both of these shows are very complex and well written. This is a network show that went on for 15 seasons. Some may say that was way too long. I have feelings about that. Game of
Some
Thrones.
may say that.
Game of Thrones went on longer than they had source material for. So it really was just a question of how the writers brought it all in for a landing. Game of Thrones, while I think the ending was what they were actually trying for, it was like a very clumsy, bumpy, turbulent landing where the plane would bounced off the tarmac and everybody would have gotten sick a little bit, and then they all got mad on the internet. Supernatural, I think, was a very smooth landing. I think they planned it out. I think they took their time. I think they knew what they had to do, and I think they did it very well. And we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited to expand on that metaphor later.
All right. Well,
All right.
later is pretty much close to here, but we'll start with the general question. Of course, we got to start broadly and work our way down. I'm going to ask you, what did you like about the second half of season 15? What didn't you like? Start wherever you'd like. Ooh, a big question.
It's hard for me because I've literally just watched all 15 seasons in 6 weeks' time. I'm not kidding. I started the week before Christmas and just finished today. I've watched the 10 episodes today, the last 10. So my brain is swimming with the entire 15 seasons. So I'm going through picking out all of it. Okay, season 15.
So season 15.
The second half.
The second half. So it basically starts with it's called The Trap. Chuck has captured Sam and Eileen. Eileen is back to life. Okay. And in the meantime, we've got some vampire. I mean, this is like a greatest hits episode, this one. I'm kind of...
It is. There's a lot of... They brought back a lot of people, which is... I like that. I like
the Leviathan Blossom came back.
They could have left that out, but...
I was like, no, we don't need... No. Get rid of that
Of all the things to bring back, that was the least that everyone wanted.
I did like the cameo of everybody... from past seasons coming back in. I like that. I like seeing that. For them to only, get killed off again.
man.
Yeah, that was really
Spoiler.
so happy. I know. No, I didn't. That part I didn't like to watch.
I didn't like that.
But I'm trying to think of anything I liked about that particular episode, other than, I guess, I liked that Eileen was back, but then I didn't later in the season when I found out why Eileen was back. That made me sad.
Why was Eileen back?
Are we jumping to that already?
There's no reason to go in any particular order. We can.
You told me to talk about things I liked.
Okay. Okay. Do whatever you want.
I'm just trying to stay in the format. I'm sorry, but I have ADHD and I can't. Well, I didn't like that then. It was basically Chuck brought her back just so that he could use her against Sam in the end. And it was literally torture for her and for Sam. And that was just, he's just the worst.
Chuck is a dick.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's be real. Women are used all the time in TV as plot devices, so just saying.
Yeah, and we have discussed that Eileen as a character hasn't been treated the best on this show. First of all...
Sorry, not to cut you off. Continue.
Well, it was, novel to have, in some ways, a hunter who was hard of hearing or deaf, and then they killed her off, and then they brought her back, and you think, oh, there's going to be hope for Sam. They tease this little romance. Dean's like, yo, bro, have some happiness in your life. Get on that. And so he tries, and then, it is basically all part of Chuck's master plan to skewer the brothers, because he has some heart-on for the two brothers, which it's... Well,
I was just going to add to that. Definitely Eileen gets the short end of the stick, but in general, there's this concept about this show that female characters in general get the short end of the stick, and so it was really frustrating in the end of this show to see the few female characters that we did not have that happen to in the end. They all ended up dying. Not that spoiler alert, not that everyone didn't end up dying, but...
by the time we join the epilogue, everybody is basically dead, but...
Right, but to not have them have the longer life and then we see them later or anything like that. It's oh no, who ended up... who killed Jody?
Jody got snapped. Snapped is from marble, but...
Yeah, Chuck was basically making people disappear, so snap is
not
a funny word. It was basically like
her
a
and Donna
snap.
came back after that.
Yeah, it's just, it's we lose Jody, we lose Donna, we lose all, it's just, I don't know. That was just frustrating for me to watch. And then that whole Kaya and Dark Kaya thing that they tried to pull was frustrating along those lines as well.
Yeah, let's talk about that episode. So after all this time, and the fact that they never did go to series with the Wayward Sisters, they brought back the Kaya storyline. What did we think about that?
I'm glad they wrapped it up, but at the same time, I still kind of wish it went to series.
Why didn't it go to series? Why didn't they?
Because the backdoor pilot was one of the least rated of the...
And I think they said it wasn't developed enough.
See, but that just feels like more of our, female characters getting shit on. That's what that feels like to me.
Yeah, pretty much.
Ideally,
I would hope that they wanted to try and fix that with the spin-off and having those other stories and, again, another perspective from other hunters, but see, that didn't happen.
I have mixed feelings on this because I never really got into the Jody's adoptive family of daughters piece. Kaya as a dream walker would have been interesting if we didn't lose her to the alternate universe with the giant footprints. The fact that they abandoned it for literally 2 or 3 seasons and then brought it back was weird. It wasn't one of the questions that was lingering for me. We talk every episode about things we had questions about. Never once did we really care about what happened to Kaya. And then they didn't really bring on all of the other daughters, basically. It was just Kaya, alternative Kaya, Jody, just trying to save each other, save the real Kaya from a world that was being erased by Chuck. And so, I don't know, that one left me feeling a little you wasted an episode on that, because I didn't really need that. I didn't really need to know that.
No, and it was it kind of felt like they were also trying to bring Claire back into things a little bit without bringing her into things.
Yeah,
Do you
where
know what I
was
mean?
she?
She wasn't
I don't know.
even there.
It was kind of like, oh yeah, don't let Claire know about this, just in case you forgot Claire was here and existed. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because they didn't even. I don't think she was even in that episode.
Nope.
But
No,
they,
she was
like,
just like mentioned a lot.
yeah, they just mentioned her so that we didn't forget that she was a character in the show
And
because
in
they
love
hadn't
with
talked
Kaya.
about her in forever.
And in love with Kaya, that was the other.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't forget that, but yes, yeah, to remind everyone of that connection as well. But yeah, that was a weird episode. I guess maybe they were trying to give more depth and humanity and meaning to the fact that all these worlds were being erased so that we would care more, because obviously we care the most about the Winchesters that we know, and so maybe it was like, here's a character that you cared a little bit about that this is affecting.
Speaking of that, what about the moment when we met some other Winchesters?
Oh my gosh. Okay, that was one I did like. That was really funny.
That was a favorite of mine because they they clearly had fun with it. You could tell they clearly had fun with it. They totally leaned into it. It was ham and cheese on rye, and I loved it. It was delightful.
It was weird to see Sam's hair up in a bun.
Yeah.
An old man bun.
I'm pretty sure a joke has been made about that before, which was why it was so excellent and ironic. And then there were more jokes made about those Winchesters generally. Yeah, I don't know about you're probably right, Kels, about giving more dimension to the other worlds, but I'm still back on it didn't really achieve that outcome because we didn't hone in on any other alternate universe.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think it would have been more effective if they had other characters in other universes to also play off of. But my only real logical thought from a story writer perspective is like, maybe that's why they went there. Either that or that they felt like, oh, this is a loose end we never tied up. But in that case, I agree with you that it's not one that I really cared about.
I do like that in the back half of the season we did have room for some just fun moments and fun episodes. And like, I really enjoyed Mrs. Butters.
Oh,
Yeah, that was one of my favorites. Yeah.
I wanted her to kind of hang around for the rest of the season, but
Yeah.
I really enjoyed her too, and I thought that the twist with her was really cool as well.
Which was?
Well, that she had actually been used to, it's been so long. She had been used to like interrogate.
She was experimented on by the men of letters.
Yes.
And was essentially brainwashed into her role of servicing them. And then we also, I think she's like a dryad or something.
Wood nymph.
Wood nymph.
yeah,
Good.
Yeah.
That's basically the
I
same
think
thing.
it's basically the same thing.
Yeah.
Although I don't know, in Supernatural sometimes they split wood or split hairs that way, so maybe they would say a dryad's different. I don't know.
I enjoyed that as well. That was clearly the one they intended for Christmas.
Yes.
Around the Christmas time, kind of moved it back. So I just...
But they did all the holidays, so it fit anywhere.
Yeah. And that was really sweet to see them like just happy and having holidays and
I did like that. Attempt to have somewhat of a normal life.
yeah. Or even extra normal, like, super normal instead of supernatural. I don't know.
Enough.
Trying to be clever, it's not working. But
What else do you like or not like?
I did like that we
Jeremy
got
and
to see
Jen K.
more Michael again and
Yes!
Lucifer too.
Well, let's talk about
loved Michael.
this. Let's talk about... Finally! Now this is one of the lingering questions and loose ends they had to tie up. And I feel they did it very
Forever.
effectively. I know they did. I feel they did it very effectively, though. And they brought back the original actor who played Adam, which was very fun. And he was, that whole episode where he's, like, out in the world and, like, they're talking to each other, but in the same body.
yeah.
Where he looks crazy to others.
Yes. And then
Yeah,
just
that was so cool.
figuring out, the whole journey of Michael figuring out who his, quote, father really is, in essence, and what he has been doing, but then in the end still manipulated by him, still so beyond loyal to a fault that he can't make a decision that dissuades him. It's, I think, one of the show's rare moments where it actually made kind of the shining point about blind faith.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also brought back Mark Pellegrino to play Lucifer.
I was very happy with that.
I would have been mad if they
So
didn't
good.
bring him
Such a
back.
good actor.
Jeremy, were you going to say something?
I was going to say I really like Castiel's last episode.
But I cried.
His moment of happiness. Thought that was really well done. And it very much fit his nature, too.
Oh, yeah. So well done. Castiel has been one of my favorite characters. Well, he was my favorite character until Jack. And I think now they're kind of tied. But that was a really fulfilling moment for me as a fan of Castiel. Because I felt like that was so well written.
It was definitely a thoughtful ending that his character deserved. And, again, tied up an actual loose end that had been kind of hanging out there with the whole deal that he'd made with the empty.
And then it had its own space within the season, which then gave Sam and Dean their space to, like, end the series. Just the two of them, the way it started. Like, so its placement in the season was well plotted as well.
Agreed.
Because we forget after 15 years, he wasn't there in the beginning.
No.
He wasn't. But
A lot of those characters weren't, actually.
But let's be real, he's been there for 12 of the years. So, because
Has it really been that long?
he came in season 4.
Yep.
And he didn't know he was going to be in the whole, the rest of it. I think he said in an interview he would have chosen a different voice that didn't hurt his throat as much.
While he was calling people ass butt. Because let's #never forget. Okay.
I kind of wish he said that at the end at some point. I don't think he did. I think that would have been like a fun callback.
Yeah, they didn't. He was very serious. There wasn't a lot of the side comments or little quips from Castiel. There was a lot more worry and angst from that character this last half season. But what can you do? They were juggling a lot and bringing people back a lot. What didn't you like?
Chuck.
Chuck is a dick. Now, did you
Which is
not
funny.
like...
It wasn't until the second half of season 15 that I really did not like him and wanted to see him dead. Him gone.
But is it a question of they did poorly with the character, or they did so well you just hated him so much?
No, they did. I think they did so well that I just really genuinely hated the character. I think they did a good job at it. I think whoever the actor is, I don't know his
Rob
name,
Benedict.
but I think he did a good job at getting that across, that he was a dick, ass.
We're a little saltier on this panel because they're saltier on the show. You see, it's all thematic. Okay. Chuck's a dick. To me, I felt they really had no other story direction but to declare war on God. I mean, he basically returns. He starts throwing his weight around. He's bored. He's acting like a kid. Amara / the darkness. His sister has come back. She's basically given him the finger and said, "You suck, man. I'm hanging in Reno. I'm doing my business. Like, leave me alone. You're a terrible person." And you agree with her because what are you going to do? She's absolutely right. He's basically acting like a deity with no direction and spoiled, rotten, tantrum throwing. He's bored with his toys and he's trying to like set them on fire to make them exciting again. He's basically Sid in Toy Story is what he's kind of reminded me of when I was watching this half of the season.
Yeah.
I
didn't like that, and this is just part of the plot that I think probably had to happen. But I didn't like that Sam and Dean decided to set up Amara the way that they did. Like, I really wish that there was a way that they could have been more candid with her and tried to work with her against Chuck instead.
I felt bad for her.
I did too. That's why.
It felt like they just kind of gave up on her character. Again, shafting female characters from Supernatural.
That one I was willing to forgive because the last time they met Amara, she like almost destroyed the world. So really, they had been given no reason to trust her. And they knew that she was the one who had the potential power to stop said deity in question. And this was before Jack really became a player back on the table again, right?
Yeah.
And so
That's true.
And I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying with the information they had, there wasn't really a whole lot of choices for them. I think that, as I recall watching this, Sam was a little bit more leaning toward let's be more real with her. But
Yeah, he was.
then there was the one-on-one in the diner between her and Dean. And remember, that whole darkness season came on the heels of the Mark of Cain. And so all of that is wrapped up in it for Dean. So I thought that piece of it actually made sense and was done pretty well. I'm not saying I loved it. I do think Amara is ultimately a tragic character. It's kind of random that they created her, number one. Like, if there's light, then there must be darkness, and she's the opposite, and she's embodied as a female. And I think there's something to be said about that all by itself. We could probably talk about gender dynamics just in that. But then looking at her existence on the show and how she manifests in season 11 and how she comes back into it now, I don't know. I felt that one was done pretty well. She's always been betrayed by someone. I think that is kind of the theme of her character. And I don't think it was going to go better for her. And I believe the trajectory of it not going better for her character.
Yeah.
Billy! What
Oh,
about
Billy.
Billy, a.k.a. the New Death, a.k.a. the Head Reaper, a.k.a. the one holding the books that tells everybody's destinies, a.k.a. the one who's, like, trying to, like, take over the world?
Good riddance.
Good riddance?
I said good riddance, yeah.
To Billy or to the world?
To Billy.
Oh.
I don't know, like, at least maybe it's just how Billy was written this season. With all the other stuff that was going on, I just didn't really want to focus on her, and I just wanted her gone.
And I don't know how fans would have reacted differently, but I think they focused really hard on making this Sam and Dean's journey, because with Amara, with Billy, with Eileen, any one of them could have helped more and been a part of it more, and I think I would have enjoyed that, but I don't know if that's either what the main chunk of fans would have wanted, or in retrospect we wouldn't have, because this show is about these two brothers. They went hard into Death as, like, the villain, and I think she could have had a turn to help fight Chuck without just being, I don't know. It's also hard for me to remember the details of Billy's storyline here.
Yeah, well, she was trying to pretend that she was helping fight Chuck because she was helping fight Chuck because she wanted to be God.
Mm-hmm.
But
she could have just, I don't know, worked together to make a...
Except for the fact that she's been telling Dean literally the entire time since she showed up that she was going to come after him at one point.
Right. I'm just saying it might have been... And I'm not saying it had to be Billy, but I think in retrospect with all these characters, if one of them, either Billy or Amara, could have been there for the ride at the end to battle Chuck. I don't...
The person who was Jack. You don't think Jack's good enough? You think
Which one's Jack?
Jack's the kid?
I'm just kidding.
The kid that came in like a couple seasons ago?
Oh, yeah, I guess so.
I think Jack's amazing. I mean, I said he's one of my favorite characters, but I think they made these, like, incredibly powerful women and then went, but they're evil and not to be trusted. And, like, just kind of undermined them. When really, I think they could have been really great assets because I think they had a lot of really good... Well, first of all, Billy knows how to kill God and how God dies, allegedly. So that would have been great information to have. If she would have been on their side and or felt like she didn't have to go behind their back or whatever. You know, if that relationship had been more above board. Is that the right term? I don't know. I have brain fog. And then with Amara, kind of the same thing, only different. Like, she's so close with her brother. Like, that would have been a great asset to have on your team. Even if you have Jack, who, yes, is obviously super powerful and obviously was capable of getting the job done himself. Like, to have either both of those women on your side or one or the other, I think would have gotten them a lot further.
So, here I come.
Here she comes.
Yeah. So I get the want and desire and the hope and how things could have been there. But a lot of this final season was focused upon, in some ways, Dean and Sam were making their final stand. And they spent a lot of conversation time, so in their BMs and their brotherly moments, in their bunker moments, whatever you want to apply BM to, talking about how they've been abandoned, they've been let down, people have died, Chuck has screwed them over one too many times. And Dean particularly struggles with that aspect of being broken almost the entire last half of the season. And so a lot of his time working up to this battle, other than his usual aggro, like we're gonna, Chuck's a dick and we're gonna find a way and all that stuff, is dealing with the hurt, basically the childhood hurts that keep manifesting over and over again for these two boys, but particularly for him. Neither Amara nor Billy have earned their trust. Billy especially not. Billy has been nothing but cryptic. She was kind of helping them out when she was an actual Reaper, but then she became actual Death. And the twist that she wanted to be God, she didn't want to stop at being one of the horsemen, she wanted to be God, was actually kind of a huge revelation, because that suggested that her eyes weren't on sort of the big picture of saving the world. She just wanted to replace one terror with herself.
Right.
And we know that Billy has not been especially merciful or forgiving in the entire time she's been on the show. So I don't know that I would have believed a turn for Billy if she'd have come out and said, you know what, I'm just going to help you out of the goodness of the heart I don't have, and we're just going to kill Chuck, and I'm just going to beat Death, and that's it. I don't think I would have bought it. Also, her end is wrapped up in Castiel's end. Right? So there's that other piece. And then Amara, I agree that there was a lot of wasted potential with Amara, and I really wish that they had brought her back a lot sooner than this last season, because she was intriguing in season 11. They completely ignored these two for several seasons, brought them back because they knew the fandom wanted it, and because I think they were holding them in their back pocket for a big splashy finale. And they could have done better with her character, but I still don't believe that what we see is out of belief, out of the suspension of disbelief for how the brothers and she relate to each other, how she and Chuck relate to each other. It actually would have been nicer if they didn't do a ton of Monsters of the Week in this season. They did a few. I would have been happy if they hadn't done any and just focused completely on the story arc itself, the war on Chuck, and maybe given her more to do and seen a little bit more development. But I also don't hate the way it ended for her. I feel like those two people were within the bounds of what we've been set up to know about them since they came. But you can disagree. It's a podcast.
Right. No, I just think that I agree that with what we've been given, it all makes sense. I'm just arguing that they had the opportunity to give us more and to develop those characters and those relationships more and move it in a different direction, and they did not.
So maybe it's less of a back half of season 15 complaint and an overall complaint of the show, that they could have done more with these characters, especially Amara, differently and given us more.
Yeah, possibly. I think the complaint is the way that this season ended because of that. But maybe they needed to set it up better in the first place. But I do agree that with Kylie, that if they hadn't done the couple Monster of the Week episodes, that maybe they could have invested more time in those relationships at that point too. I don't know.
Big sigh. Big heaving sigh.
There's a lot to unwrap and discuss.
I know.
So what else should we unwrap and discuss?
So do you all think that Castiel was saying he was in love with Dean when he said he loved Dean, or did he mean like platonically love?
I'm hoping the first one, but probably the second one.
I think it's more platonic.
Yeah.
I took it as familial, actually. I think it's closer than platonic, not quite romantic, Sorry, man. I think they have been in the trenches this whole time together. They're basically brothers. It's more than just being best friends. He's another member of the Winchester family, but particularly where Dean is concerned, I think he was sincerely just expressing, like, you're one of mine, I'm one of yours. But, there's lots of, I cannot think of the ship name for this.
Destiel.
Destiel.
There it is. There's a lot of Destiel shippers out there. So I'm not going to rip away your dreams.
Oh yeah, no, it's not my dream, but I don't care. But I know that when that happened, there was a lot of buzz about it.
Mm-hmm.
And whether or not it was an admission of a confirmation of Destiel, at least from Cass's perspective. I don't know, at least I believe that Castiel feels a familial bond with Dean. I don't know that Dean really feels a familial bond with Castiel because he always argues against that. He's always saying, it's me and Sam. Sam, you're my brother. Castiel's not one of us. And then he'll say, Jack's not one of us. Maybe he hasn't said Castiel's not one of us in a while. So maybe it's been a while. But
I think Dean came around there.
I think Dean definitely felt it in that moment and realized, but I don't know before that he had admitted that to himself.
I think some of their prior problems between Castiel and Dean were more like, Castiel seemed more like a surrogate father figure in Dean's life for a lot of the times, that we know how he felt about his real father, that he did not take that well in the beginning, and then learned later on in the series that it's not replacing his father, it's another person in his life kind of thing. That's what my whole thing with Cass and Dean kind of resembled.
Interesting.
I didn't take it that way. To me, it was one of those things where, Dean is always prickly and he doesn't trust many people. So Cass kind of had to earn his trust. I think they were truly best friends. But, Cass had his ups and downs too. Remember that time where he was the overseer of hell? That was fun. I believe that was the Leviathan season. Don't worry, we'll be talking about that. But I do think that their arguments, it actually kind of serves to bolster the family argument. I think the arguments meant they were more like family. The fact that he was willing to have those arguments, the fact that they bristled, the fact that they pushed back. I mean, would anybody have, replaced Sam as Dean's top man in his life? Probably not. I mean, those two that's the story of the show, right? They're there, they're ride or die, they're in this huge epic fight. But I think that I really saw them as family by the end. I think that's what Cass was communicating, and I think Dean saw it before that moment too. I just don't think we saw him see it so acutely until that moment. Also, there was a lot of time because of budget issues where they would move Misha off the show for a little while so that they could afford other things, and so Cass would be gone for a while. So I suppose it's hard to kind of like think of that continuity a little bit, but I really believe that in the end.
Yeah.
Which is too bad.
I know that we said earlier that I actually was upset that they did not show Dean reunite with Castiel in the last episode.
But didn't Cass go to the empty?
No.
He didn't?
He did. No, they said that he was helping Jack.
I feel like I remember that too, that he was helping set up heaven with Jack or something. Because I remember them saying something about the empty and how Jack did something.
I don't remember what happened, but they definitely said that he was there in heaven helping Jack. And I was like, well, then how come we don't see him? And it was because he wasn't on set. I was very frustrated with that.
Don't remember that. I'll take your word for it. And maybe one day they'll make a supernatural movie and we'll check in with heaven.
Maybe.
Hint, people.
I also am going to choose to believe that it was not a confession of romance, because then that's super queerbaity of them to like have him say he loves him and then just like suck him into the empty and then it's all over. I think that's really rude. So that's my personal rant.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And in the last episode, Bobby claims that Castiel and Jack rule heaven together, meaning Jack resurrected Castiel from the void.
I didn't.
So says the internet.
I believe the internet. But you know what was happening when I was watching that last episode? Tears.
You're crying.
Tears.
Oh, we're crying.
Tears.
I don't remember half the things that were said. I was waiting. Actually, you know who I was waiting to see more than anybody else in my whole life? Jeffrey
Crowley?
Dean Morgan.
Oh.
They should have brought back Papa Winchester. The Walking Dead's almost done. Nobody needs this. Bring him. He came back that one time.
I was going to say, come on, they brought him back one time already for you.
But this
Episode 300.
I know, but the whole thing was about them. Now I know we're going straight to the finale, so I'm going to not do too much of this. But still, the whole conversation was about they were off, somewhere, like they were all happy and eventually reunited, and it would have been nice to see, is all I'm saying. Of all the people to bring back in this final episode, him and what's her name that plays Mary? Yes.
See where your allegiance is at. Let's bring back Dad and what's her name?
I can't remember what her name is right now.
You mean Mary?
Okay, I frequently can't remember his name, and I just walk around calling him Daddy Winchester all the time, so...
Winchester.
Oh, John Winchester.
His name was John.
Yes.
Yeah.
His
Thank
real
you.
name is... I know her name is Mary as in the character. I'm talking about her real name, Jen K.
Oh, let's see what Google says.
All right, you do that. You go about that.
I agree, though. I think we should have seen the four of them.
This is my probably really unpopular opinion. Are you ready for it?
Oh, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I think no one's going to agree with me. I felt like the last episode was unnecessary.
I get where you're coming. There were moments are we on the last episode
We
now?
might as well get there.
Well, let's say that we're on, let's say, why did they not, why? Okay, because everyone wants, their handheld enclosure, I
Kels
guess.
has
But,
feelings.
but I cried at the end of episode 19. And why not just end it with knowing that Jack has done everything and he's gonna go be new God now? Why do we have to watch frickin' Dean die by being impaled by some stupid rebar? That was the stupidest death. I hated it. It was dumb.
It was, but him
And then I
dying still made me
hated-
cry.
No, I hated it. And then I hated watching Sam just age. It was,
Oh, the age was so
the aging
bad.
was so bad. It was so bad.
When he got in the car, I'm like, his hair is somewhat a little gray, but his face still looks the same. Couldn't they put a little more wrinkles on him?
No,
That's
but
what the
he's gonna
glasses
be
were for.
Wallace when he dies. No,
The
it
wrinkles
just
he had in the end is what he should have had when he sits in the car and does his whole feeling of the car.
yeah. It felt very it felt too much to me. I just felt like it could have been more ambiguous, and then we could have all put in our own thing and used our imaginations, and it would have been fine. And I just thought that the last episode was I felt like it was unnecessary.
Nick, you were saying.
I was saying there are moments when I was watching it that I had that feeling of. There was a couple of times where I was like, we could have just ended with the last one, but they really did. When it was all said and done, I think it was necessary. I liked a lot of what they did. I liked that. I always get Sam and Dean's names mixed up. I don't know why.
Sam's the one with the hair. Dean's the one with the pie.
Dean dying while hunting is kind of how he wanted to go out. Sam had his time with his family. He had a kid. I think it was worth seeing that. To some extent, I think the overall fan base, that is what they wanted, and I think they did a good job with it. Would I have been fine if that episode didn't exist and I didn't know it existed? I think so. I think the penultimate episode would have been an okay ending, if not a great ending for the show, but I think the next episode went the extra mile, and I think I would be surprised if most fans didn't appreciate seeing all that.
Yeah. Okay, but I feel like if you're gonna have Dean die while he's hunting, at least make it cool. I don't know.
I can agree with that. I was like,
The way he died was pretty, yeah.
I'll agree. It seemed like a little nail.
Yeah.
It should have, it should have been more definitive.
Definitive or epic.
So here I come.
Here she comes.
Yep. So first of all, I think it's a rare phenomenon that a show A goes to 15 seasons. B, that a cult show, this is the unprecedented thing. Supernatural is the longest running cult show, period. There's no other cult show that reaches it, except for Doctor Who, I guess, but Doctor Who is bigger than Supernatural, so I'm not even comparing them. I think this is very much more in the cult.
It's hard to compare when you have the same two cast members, too.
True.
Yeah.
And so I think there were a couple of things that went into that final episode. Also, should footnote this by saying that this is one of the most successful properties that has ever been on the WB, CW, whatever it was. You know, not since Buffy or Smallville or Charmed, the original, not that reboot, which we also talked about, has there been something quite so substantial as Supernatural. That being said, I think what they were trying to do was a love letter to the fans, and I think it worked. It was catharsis. It was meant to give you the feels. The fact that Dean went out on a rebar is irony because they've gone through this whole big, they fought God and the devil and the archangels and the heads of every monster thing and the stupid Leviathan and all the other stuff they've ever fought, and all he was doing was just his everyday thing, and like Nick said, it was going out fighting. Now, could they have filmed something better? Sure. I actually took it as it's every day for Dean and he would have been happy. Did I want a big splatter of blood and fire and burning up Jensen Ackles' pretty face? No! Just kill him on the rebar, then you could get his expressions. It worked for me. And then I also agree with how Nick characterized the rest of the episode. It gave us what, by us, I mean, I guess I would be a member of the fandom to which he was referring. It gave us what we wanted. This is where we wanted, if they weren't going to die, then we wanted to see what happened otherwise, basically. And so that's what they did, and I felt that they tied it off very well in the road they took. The road so far, which now the road has ended. Ha-ha. I like to help. Carry on, my wayward sons.
The other thing that if we're still talking about the final episode,
of course we are,
then this episode did something that it was other shows that were big like this, that when it ends, there's usually a special that airs afterwards. Seinfeld did it. Just a lot of things do where it's its
Friends
own. Whereas this, they made sure as part of the episode, we're just gonna get the crew up and stare right into the camera and thank the fans, because
I really like that.
And I think this is a show that it made sense to do that for.
And I cried and I cried and I cried some more.
Oh, I did.
I had no water left in the tear ducts by the end of this episode, which doesn't happen to me.
Well, you know what, Kylie? So did I. And then I texted you and I said, did you watch Supernatural yet? I need to talk to somebody about it. And you said, no, not yet.
Well, now I have, and we are.
Well, it's a year later.
Look, there's a lot of stuff. I watch a lot of TV. There's been a lot of COVID. Lots of stuff is happening.
I know. I'm teasing you.
This is why Kylie is always the last one to watch the show. She's like, I won't watch anything till it comes up for the panel, because then I can call whoever I want to talk about it because they've already watched it.
That's right. Works out for me. I think I plan well.
Pretty. I see how it is.
Any other thoughts on the finale? Since we apparently went straight there.
We didn't go straight there. It's been an hour.
I like that they showed Bobby. They brought him back for that in heaven.
The real Bobby,
not
alternative
the
Bobby.
real Bobby, yes. And it was a very nice moment between him and Dean, which I cried through the whole time. So, yeah, I like that.
I did cry a lot, even though I said that it wasn't scary. I'm just saying, I think I prefer my shows in general to end a little more vaguely so that I can use my own, fill in the blank and imagination. I don't like people to tell me what to do.
I don't think you were ever going to have a fulfilled hope of that on this show, though.
Honestly, I know. But I think that I probably would have pretty much guessed that all of this was going to happen anyway. So I think they did what I thought was going to happen, which is why I think also that it was unnecessary.
I don't know if it was a joke or just really sweet. It's kind of a joke. In the last episode, Sam naming his son Dean,
Yeah.
like, in itself was this sweet little moment. But if you remember, Garth named his kid
Yes, he did.
Damn.
not after Dean. So it was like this sweet moment that also, like, I remembered that and it made me chuckle. Like, oh yeah, they kind of set this up. But
Yeah.
I wonder if little kid Sam and little kid Dean team up.
Oh.
Oh.
Supernatural babies.
Can we have that spin-off? Like Muppet Babies?
Oh.
Supernatural Babies?
I'm here for it.
Yeah.
There's a catchy theme song, all the more. 'Cause,
Just
you know,
children doing Carry On My Wayward Son. That's what it's
I love
the
it.
kid pop version.
And Rowena could be Nanny.
Ah, yes, Rowena. We've hardly discussed Rowena, and it does bear to mention that she did become the Queen of Hell.
Which was predictable, honestly.
But
And naturally so. Like, she should have been. I'm very glad.
Okay.
Happy for her.
Good. I was just about to gauge that since I know we have our Rowena fans on the panel. Some of them are diehard. Jeremy, I'm not one of them. Jen S is not one of them. Unless you've changed your mind. Have you changed your mind?
Well, I liked her better the second time around watching.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, those things changed after watching the whole 15 seasons the second time around. I found myself liking characters more or less, or liking different seasons more or less. It was really weird.
Hold that
Yeah,
for the
I know.
ladies.
Oh, wait.
So, as we often do during these supernatural episodes, we kind of go back through the predictions, questions, and wishes because it's been a building list for several seasons in which we've been covering this show, pretty much since the inception of our podcast, within about 6 months. So, one of the things that did not happen was Sam's potential latent powers attributable to Azazel. They never came back. They never manifested. There never was any return to that. Do you have any thoughts about that?
That they should have done that.
Yeah, I kind of wish they brought him back. I
I've
mean,
been waiting
he's
for it for
kind of
years.
he's the demon that started it all.
Would have been cool.
So we have some saltiness, okay.
It'd be harder to kill him if he had powers at the end there.
Thanks, Nick, for that analysis. Janice,
I don't know. I kind of just forgot about the character. to be
you
honest,
just
by the
watched
end.
all 15 seasons again. So are you telling me
Yeah,
that
like very
doesn't
recently.
In
matter?
about
too.
2 years, I will. What?
So in watching all 15 seasons again, that didn't matter to you?
No.
Oh. Very interesting. Okay. So, we wondered why Sam and Dean were so important because of Billy's proclamation that she would no longer pursue their permanent deaths. We learned a bunch of stuff. Basically, we know that we're wondering if Lucifer was gone for good. We know that Chuck has pulled him from the empty, and that we've hardly talked about the penultimate episode, which is something you talked about being your preferred or wished for finale in some instances. I mean, I think it's important to mention that there's this whole standoff between Chuck, Archangel Michael in Adam's body, Lucifer, who's been plucked from the empty by Chuck, and the whole purpose is to try to essentially set the brothers off against each other. And then they end up like chasing Chuck down. There's this whole bit. Michael turns on them. And then Jack comes in and saves the day and smites God. It's truly something. So what about that piece?
I think that was a fair ending for God, for how much of a little, as you put, the temper tantrum he was throwing, being a little kid, and essentially he's stuck being the thing that he kind of loathed for like past season or two. I think it was a good karma fulfilling ending for him.
Other thoughts?
Nope.
Okay. So we saw Adam and Michael again. That was fun. We often wondered if heaven would collapse because, you know, the angels, they kept being obliterated, and then who was really in heaven by that end. And it never did collapse, and then Jack kind of became God and presumably saved heaven. How do you feel about that?
think that makes sense and was necessary to give our heroes a happy ending. If there was no heaven, they would have just died at the end, and that wouldn't have felt like a good way to end the show. So I think that was the right writing choice.
I'm going to move past the next heaven question because that makes no sense. We talked about the empty. Although we do never really get an explanation of what the empty is.
It's empty.
Is that satisfactory enough for you?
I don't know. There's lots of weird supernatural-y things.
It's where God goes when he has a hangover or a migraine.
I don't think that's true. So you didn't need to know what the empty was? You were satisfied with the fact that empty was the empty and could take in all the angels and demons when they were smote?
I think just thinking about that, I mean, if it went further into it, I think we would have wanted to expect more of it, and that could have spiraled very easily.
Yeah, it seems like the less we know about it, the easier it is to... I don't think there's a satisfying way to explain it.
Maybe like the easiest way to process it and get it over with.
I feel like it should have been like another sibling of God and Amara.
The always forgotten middle child.
Right.
I like it.
Actually, that would have been a really good idea.
That is the
Adam
void
of,
between light and
The
dark.
Supernatural Brothers.
That is a good idea.
That would have made the most sense. And it would have been an easy explanation that they didn't have to go into super.
Well, I think they kind of have that too, at least like with Greek mythology, because there's Hades, Poseidon, and Zeus. Those are the three brothers. So it could have like had a parallel with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More
Jen
mythology
K.
going into it.
Yeah, look at that. I like that. Yeah.
Sometimes my brain works.
I started reading Percy Jackson for the first time, and I like Greek mythology, and then also the video game Hades has been on my mind for like the past week or two.
Nice. That's cool.
We got a lot of returns, a lot of people that came back. Obviously, Rob Benedict as Chuck, but a whole bunch of other people too. We even got to see Lilith in a new body. Is there anyone you were disappointed that you did not see?
They never bring back Joe and Ellen. It makes me mad. I love them so much.
Yeah. Joe and Ellen, Eloise, and then John Winchester. Oh, and Claire. So they just like, oh, we can't tell Claire. Oh, don't tell Claire this. Claire's not even in the episode.
Claire was on Big Little Lies. We just talked about that. She plays Reese Witherspoon's daughter. Okay, anyway. That's a whole other podcast.
Good for her.
Good for her.
Yeah.
So Joe and Ellen. Anybody else?
I feel like I'd have to rewatch the show to see who
I know. I
missed.
need to rewatch this. I need to do what Jen S did and rewatch this show. And I've been waiting to do these episodes so that I can. That's the real. Okay. What else? We know they don't kill each other. There's a lot of questions we were building up. And a lot of no's. No, this is not what actually happened. Were you mad that Mark Shepard didn't return? Did you feel... Crowley, do you really...
I did. That is one I missed. That and Asmodeus. No,
I've seen...
Colonel Sanders needed to make his appearance.
I have
Everyone wanted to know what the secret herbs and spices were.
I have seen that guy on other things. He is a really good actor because Asmodeus is so different from some of the other things he's played. It's so fun because I'm like, that guy is so familiar, and then I look him up and he's Asmodeus, and I'm like, oh, holy crap. He was very Colonel Sanders. That's very true.
I love Mark Shepard on other things. I just have never been a Crowley fan. I don't know. Everyone else loves him.
I enjoyed Crowley, but I also think that I don't know how they would have brought him back with the way that Crowley ended. But then again, Jack was resurrecting people all the time, so why would Jack have? Jack never met Crowley. Did Jack meet Crowley?
No, I don't think so.
Because Jack was a baby when Crowley died, I think.
Yeah.
Before Jack grew real fast.
I was going to say,
He wasn't even a baby.
It was that same season because he died in the alternate world. Crowley did. I don't remember. Jen S., you just watched this.
Yeah, tell us.
Yeah. What? Tell you what.
What was Jack?
They never met.
Okay.
Jack literally was never a baby.
Right.
We never saw him as a baby.
True. And Jack didn't go to the alternate world before Crowley died. That's what I thought. That's the important questions that we're probing here on this podcast. Okay, well, because we are going to be doing a looking back episode, this is how we end these recaps before we transition there. I'm going to ask you to rate Supernatural now, how they do in the end, the finale, how they do in the end. You can do it with stars. You can do it with pies. You can do it with a grade. Whatever floats your boat. How do you think they did ending Supernatural? Everybody must answer this question.
They did a good job. It was satisfying.
I need a rating, Nick. Did you not hear the question?
You did
I
not.
rated it on a scale of words.
No.
From
Pass.
I think it needs to be measurable, Nick.
Scale of words. What does that even mean?
like if bad was bad and great was great.
False.
Good is just under.
Just rate it.
4 out of 5 stars.
Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna
agree as well.
say that too.
I would give
Same
it
here.
4 out of 5.
Jeremy.
I would give it 2 babies, 3 pies, and 5 pentacles.
What does that mean?
I don't know.
What was the tentacles? Did you say tentacles?
No, not
Tentacles.
Oh, that's the wrong show we're talking about.
Unless you were trying to bring back like Leviathans or whatever.
Yeah, what is happening? Is Hydra here? That's Marvel.
No, Arkham Horror, but no, pentacles.
Oh.
Like the anti-possession tattoos.
How many pentacles? We'll use those as your stars.
Out of how many?
Oh, then I have to readjust my pentacle rating. I give it 3 3/4 pentacles.
Fair enough.
Out of 5 or 10?
That's for you to decide.
That's not how this works. Why do I have such sassy people on this
You should
panel?
know better than to ask these kind of questions.
But I moderate this podcast.
So it's split on you.
Panelists.
Well, then you were just doing
Yeah.
a poor job at it then, because you're not moderating your guests at all.
Oh.
Not this
Out of 5. Out of 5.
Okay. Thank you for capitulating. I'm going to give it 4.5 stars. I would love to give it 5, but let's just...
Pentacles.
I would love to give it 5, but let's just face it, it's not a perfect show. And I might be a little bit biased because, Jensen. But I do think it was a really awesome ride, and it is truly one of my all-time favorite shows. Is it my most favorite show? No, it's not my most favorite show. I can think of a couple that will go above that. Like I said
Is it in
earlier,
your top 5, top 10, top 20?
top 20 for sure. I would have to think about top 10. I don't know about top 10. Top 20 for sure. Yes.
But this is just like we're just rating the final episode though, right? Not the whole.
Correct.
The way you just talked sounded like the whole show.
The whole show. It
I
did.
know, but it kind of goes hand in hand with me because...
Kylie, are you moderating this or not?
But see, I also have privileges, TM, so... But the finale I thought was really... If I was just to rate the finale, I still would give it 4.5 stars.
Okay.
Is it perfect? No. Is it everything I could have wanted or hoped for? I think hoped for, yes. Is there things...
Is the half star off because of the terrible aging of Sam?
I wasn't...
Or the rebar.
I wasn't as offended by either things. I think it was more the absence of, say, John and Mary, for example.
Oh, okay.
Kylie and I watched Star Trek. That aging makeup was nothing.
Yeah,
Not bad comparatively.
I have a very low threshold when it comes to like good makeup on TV shows because I watch all the things like the Star Treks and the Doctor Who's and the stuff, and they're not all good at it. So let's just be real.
Fine.
And then last time, I put this in here, this is very important. Last time we spent some time talking about the fact that Jensen had a new album. And Kels was like, I downloaded this album and it was all a thing. So, do you have a review of it?
I don't, because I just saw that you put that on there as a line item, and I listened to it when I downloaded it. And I have not listened to it since because, listen, I cannot even tell you how many songs I have downloaded on iTunes. And I don't usually repeat songs very often. Well, sometimes I do lately, but not really. So I will have to go back and listen to it, and then we can do like a mini episode where I just review Jensen's album sometime.
All right,
I
we'll
did
put
not do
that on the list. At this point, is there anything else you'd like to say about Season 15B, as in the last 11 episodes of our beloved Supernatural?
No.
All right, that was very definitive, but Never you fear, because we have one more episode in this dramatically long water cooler series, like the dramatically long series we've been talking about, to go. So before we get there, what I'd like to do is thank Jen S. and Jen K. and Nick and Kels and Jeremy for talking with me about Season 15B of Supernatural. But don't touch that dial. We're going to roll some credits. Couch Potatoes Unite! Exclamation point was produced by Back Pocket Productions, run by yours truly, the Chief Couch Potato, which is really another way of saying executively produced by me, Kylie Piette. My associate producers are Krista Pennington and Selene Rezmer. I edit this podcast, and our logo is by Rebecca Wallace. Our marketing graphic artist is Krista. Our theme song was written by Sarah Milbratz and sung by Sarah, Amy McDaniel, and Kels Rezmer. Kels played the keyboard, Ian McDonough played the bass, Christian Somerville played the guitar, and the whole shebang was engineered by Kyle Aspinall and Christian. We hail from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Please, if you like what you hear, take the time to rate us, give us stars, provide comments, or review us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, CastBox, and Amazon are just a few of the places you can find us, but we're also on YouTube. We have our website. Otherwise, feel free to tell us how we're doing, what we should add, subtract, keep, or toss. You know how it goes. And if you have suggestions for shows we might consider, contact us at our website where we have a guest book, by email at couchpotatoesunitepodcast@gmail.com, our Facebook, our Twitter at CPU Podcast, our Instagram at Couch Potatoes Unite, or wherever you get your podcasts. Though, of course, we add new and old shows to chat about around the water cooler all the time, and always have new episodes coming down the pipe. Just listen to our intros. If you miss old episodes or want to know in general what shows we cover, just search for us. Find us wherever you do searchable things on the internet. Don't forget that exclamation point, or contact us via our website, our email, our social media accounts, and stay up on all the new events and episodes by our humble little podcast, Couch Potatoes Unite! Exclamation point. Until the next time, Supernatural is available to stream on Netflix, as that contract between the CW and Netflix still exists, at least for now. Never you fear, though, our Supernatural panel is not quite done, as we will next reconvene for the second part of this two-part miniseries in which we say goodbye to this long-running epic with a high-level look back at the whole darn show. So until next time, until next episode, new episodes are published every Wednesday. Keep listening, keep watching, stay tuned!
Bye-bye.
Bye.